Let's have a look at some of the terms that are in your book. One of those is a weaver priestess. What are weaver priestesses?
So this was something that I learned about when I was first becoming a priestess. I wanted to take a deep dive into the roles of priestessing in ancient times around the world and find as much information I could as possible. And then I stumbled on this book by a brilliant author called Jill Hammer, and she looks into the roles of priestessing and how they would have had. The idea is, and the research says, that they would have all had temple duties. You know, they would have also specialized in a particular topic, like the herbalist, the birthing doula, the dream interpreter. She goes on to talk about the weaver priestesses. Now, traditionally, they were the ones that would sing and chant as they were weaving cloth, particularly veils and curtains to, cover up sacred objects or sacred places. They would embroider sigils and good intentions into the cloth as well, very similar to the fabric, African fabric, the kanga, I think it's called, and they have like a little blessing that in part of the pattern. So these weaver priestesses basically were creatrixes that not only physically spun, but they would spin words and stories and poetry as they did their women's work. So in that regard, these priestesses were like similar to the Norns, I suppose, grandmother spider. So they were wise women who sit at the loom that were chantresses and storytellers and poets. And they would, chant prayers and blessings as they spun. In modern context, within the book that I learned that you can take that word weaving similar to the word, tantra means to weave, whether that's an actual textiles or text. And you can weave poetry with your words. You can weave a song. You can weave a story as you're creating a painting. And so I really, really like that terminology, especially when I learned the etymology of the word text means textile, comes from textiles. So I kind of wanted to include that in the book as a way to weave it all together, I suppose.
This is where it all fits, isn't it? All the bits slotting in together.
Yes, absolutely. It's amazing what you can find when you just keep digging, go down rabbit holes.
Do you think that words themselves are important for working in ritual to bring it together?
I'd say so. Even if you stay silent or you don't particularly write out your word craft, it's still in the mind and it's still working through with your voice on an internal level. My teacher on my yoga teacher training taught the difference between chanting outward and then chanting inwards. So when you chant inwards to yourself, it's called Ayu Yog. So even when you say the word yog, it sounds like it's going in. But when you say yoga, it's coming out, it's projecting out. So in many traditions, words are seen as conduit for energy and capable of influencing you and the surrounding environment and manifesting desired outcomes. So I would say absolutely, especially when you repeat what you say, when you're creating a ritual ceremony, you often find, regardless of whether it's in a Western context or in another part of the world, you come together, whether in a coven or by yourself, and you chant the same thing and it becomes ritualistic and meaningful. And it's almost like a vibration that goes out and comes back like a heartbeat. So yeah, absolutely, I would say so. It's really important for rituals.
Power behind it again.
Absolutely, yes.
Thinking about word witchery, subject of the book, how and where would you use word witchery? Some examples.
I would say it's quite an accessible form of creativity and craft, and it's quite freeing. Again, going back to what happened to me with surviving an ectopic pregnancy, I couldn't do anything else, so I had to sit up and how do I process that grief and how do I transform that into something that's meaningful to me? So I wrote poetry on my laptop and I was doing that and then falling asleep. And then, whereas, I think in a lot of ways, a lot of creative outlets, you have to move and you have to set things up. Whereas word witchery is quite liberating. You really don't need much, a pen and paper, your laptop, or even if you prefer, I have a friend who does similar to automatic writing, she does automatic voicing where she speaks into something and see what comes up. And the matter of how is just like, it really depends on the person. And then where can be anywhere. It could be in the comfort of your own home, in the woods. I actually did a very simple word witchery spell when I was abroad once, and I learned that somebody I loved passed away. So I sat on a beach and I got some paper that can decompose quite easily. And I wrote a little spell, a little prayer to wish her well on her next journey. I rolled it up in a shell, and then I just put it on the rocks with a little bit of incense so I could meditate and think about her, and with pebbles and more shells, and I just let the water take it, almost like a telephone line, and hoping that she gets my message to the other side through the water. Yeah, if you've got a notepad and a pen or a laptop, you can take Wordcraft, word witchery everywhere with you. It's quite accessible, I think. So it's quite open and inclusive, I think.
So as a tarot reader, I was quite interested on the tarot poetry in your book. Tell us about that.
That was just coming from a playful place. I love picture symbolism, and we all, many of us, love to pull a daily card. And I just thought, what if I could combine the two? So, when we pull a daily card or a spread, we turn that into a ritual in its own right, even if it's just for 5 minutes, meditating on the symbolism and of that card and what comes up. And some people even journal it the way some people journal their dreams. And I thought, well, what if instead of, or as well as journaling, you turned those symbols into a poem as part of your ritual? So it's I think I've seen some blogs that talk about it, and I thought, what a fun and cute thing to do to get people into poetry or poetry magic. Again, you've got a tarot deck, it's accessible, piece of paper, and because you've already got that picture symbolism there, it's almost like, when you're trying to do a painting, there's a blank canvas, and that makes it quite difficult, and you can be like, I don't know what I'm going to paint. It's a really good start to give you those symbols and that energy to create a symbolic or magical poem. And it's fun.
That probably helps with learning the cards as well, doesn't it? Because you're connecting with the energies of it.
Yeah, absolutely.